Chapter 2 is called Thinking Like an Economist. In this chapter, we're going to look at what are economists' two roles and how do they differ, what are models and how do economists use them, what are the elements of the circular flow diagram and what concepts does the diagram illustrate, how is the production possibility frontier related to opportunity cost, what other concepts does it illustrate, and what is the difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics, and what is the difference between positive and normative. The economist acts as a scientist, and economists play two different roles. They play the role of a scientist trying to explain the world. They also act as policy advisors, trying to improve it. As scientists, economists employ the scientific method. There are many assumptions that we're going to make throughout our studies this semester. Economists use diagrams and equations or graphs in order to illustrate or explain what's going on in the economy. There are details that will be omitted so that we're able to see what's truly important. A lot of our studies will be built on assumptions, and these assumptions are going to help us to simplify reality to improve our understanding of the economy. So you know what a model is, so here's just some different illustrations here of different models. The circular flow diagram is a visual model of the economy. And the circular flow diagram shows how dollars flow through markets among households and firms. There are two different decision makers. There's firms and there are households. And these firms and households, so think of your family household, for example, are interacting in two different markets. And the two different markets are the market for goods and services. So in other words, the stuff that you and I buy, the shoes that you have on, your backpack, etc. The other market is the market for factors of production. So those are inputs or things that businesses need in order to produce whatever it is that they're going to offer for sale. Okay, here we're going to build the circular flow diagram piece by piece here. So we have households and firms. Firms buy or they hire the factors of production. They use them to produce goods and services and sell goods and services. So that's on the bottom here, and I'll explain the cash flows in a minute. And then we have households that are buying and selling, households that are buying a variety of goods and services. So the green arrows here going from firms to households and then households back to firms represent the flow of income as well as payments. And the red arrows represent the flow of goods and services, including down here the factors of production in the economy between households and firms. So to keep this graph simple, we've omitted the government, the financial system, and also the foreign sector. The production possibility frontier is a graph that shows a combination of various outputs that an economy could produce. Given the available factors of production and technology, so an example is, let's look at two different goods, computers and wheat. The resource that's going to be used to produce computers and wheat is labor. And we're going to measure labor in hours. This economy, in our first example here, has 50,000 labor hours per month that are available for production. So if we look at producing one computer requires 100 labor hours, and producing 1 ton of wheat requires 10 labor hours. So if we produce all computers, we would use up all 50,000 of our labor hours and we would produce no wheat. Or we could produce 500, that would give us rather 500 computers and 0 wheat. So building various points along the production possibility curve, we get all of these different scenarios. So if we dedicate 40,000 labor hours to computers and 10,000 labor hours to wheat, then we will get 400 computers and 1,000 bushels of wheat. And then so on. If we dedicate 25,000 of our labor hours to each computers and wheat, we're going to be able to produce 250 computers and 2,500 bushels of wheat. So looking at this next graph, all of these points here, we're going to plot these points. Okay, so if we, in this economy, if we are producing anywhere along this line, the economy is getting all it can from the scarce resources that are available. So anything in here, if we were producing, let's say, only 200 computers and 1,000 bushels of wheat, anything within this area here is not efficient. Okay, I'm going to put this active learning exercise up, and I want you to discover that the points under the PPF are possible but inefficient. So I just gave you a little bit of heads up in my previous comments. So I want you to read through this and complete the active learning lesson or activity and bring it to class, and we will discuss it in class.